because of our transition, we are getting out of that portion because everything else has gotten so big for us that we just feel like that we need to focus on a certain area. And so in doing so, obviously, what I've had to do is figure out, okay, well, where do I find, team members? Where do I find, personnel to fill these voids and fill all these areas? And Texas is a huge state, right? And so it's a little different. It's nothing like retail business. For us, we're doing all wholesale, so we have a set, customer base that, we don't have a store that people walk in and say, hey, can I look at your, whatever the case may be. And it makes it tough, right, when people aren't absolutely coming to you. But the beautiful part about it is this is probably the number one known product in the country for us, or for the automotive collision industry, along with our competitor product. Well, in our industry, you either bleed red, which is us, or blue, which is our competitor. And so if they want to purchase this equipment, the beautiful part about it for us is they can only get it from one place, right? So we don't have to be out there on the street constantly promoting, or, the brand recognition has been built already. So you guys know, as, small business owners, building brand is tough. And quite frankly, what we've kind of even changed is, we want to be the known factor in it. But what we have talked about recently with David coming in is saying, hey, do we want to quit fighting the branding portion of the business, because Chief already has that. They already own that. So when we've just been doing some testing, and quite frankly, when I walk in with my Chief shirt versus PCE shirt, I don't get stopped at the gatekeeper every time. So now they know, oh, you're the Chief guy. Yes, we walk through like we own the place, and it's so much easier. But I will tell you, I think it's the backside stuff that what we've been able to maximize on, and saying once we've gotten in, okay, we know this, we know this Chief brand, and now we know who's behind it and everything. And that's been our biggest battle and struggle, is just getting those guys in these large markets to understand who Professional Collision is and what we do. And we're not just coming in cold calling someone. We're coming in because you already have the equipment that we represent. So that's been a little bit of a challenge. You can't, again, if we're not spending just tons of time marketing to those guys and stuff like that to identify who we are, then it's been a little bit of a battle. Because I would love to do so, but realistically, it gets costly for us, and we just trying to figure out how to balance that. And so that part's always tough and everything, but that is basically most of the equipment that we're doing. There's a lot of it that we could sit here and go through, but you guys would be bored to death in like 2 minutes, right? So at this point, is there any questions to this point or anything? All right. Well, so at the beginning of this year, actually into last year, I had realized that the battle of trying to find employees and training them, and the hard part is always, and I'm sure, I don't know what a lot of you guys' business models are, but the hard part is basically, as a small business owner, we spend thousands of dollars, possibly in training technicians and employees. And how do you maximize that, and how do you keep those guys from saying, hey, appreciate it, see you later, I'm going to go work for those big guys, right? After we've paid for all that. In our industry, in particular, on the body shops, they suffer from that. Worse than we do. Those guys, they have jobs on every corner. The technicians can go down the street. The grass is always greener. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we just try to tell the guys, hey, when you leave down there, you're going to be fixing cars, and I don't think they fix cars different. You still have to use the equipment and all those kind of things. So building culture is tough. Yes, sir. Sure. Okay. So the question was, he knows we have an equipment leasing option on our website, and we use an outside source for all of our leasing equipment and everything. All of our equipment that's leased, those guys get a $1 buyout option in their lease programs, and we technically use someone out of Austin in the Texas market that seems to go really well for us. And all the guys like dealing with someone if they're going to use it for some type of tax write-off or something like that, then or 179 write-off, then they want to go through someone local that they can talk to. If they had to go visit, they can do so. I have companies now that, because of our growth, and what we do nationally in the programs is that I mean, I get calls daily probably from, finance companies that want to be a member or come in and help us and stuff. And I tell you, we've just had so much luck doing things locally, and I appreciate that, from my standpoint, when guys want to buy from us and buy from the local guy, and we try to do the same in our markets. So definitely, and if there are some guys locally that are interested in that, so we can definitely, help in our direct areas for all of that. I was just trying to think of anything else as far as what we're doing, what we're moving. Well, where I was going with this was, so finding the personnel, finding people to keep the training moving, keep things fluid, not missing, delivery dates and things like that. It's been very challenging. So at the beginning of this year, end of last year, beginning of this year, I decided, man, I've got to have some help, and I had to go back and be a little greedy with this, because I just felt like it was, something that I absolutely had to do. And so what we did was I sat back and I reached out to my old employer, and I said, David, man, I need some help. We've gotten to the point where we're the technical guys, right? We started the business. We understand the business. We understand the equipment and everything, but what do we not do very well? Business. Right? We're not businessmen. So, we're workers, and this is what we've always done. And so I went out and I said, man, I'd like to hire some services from a guy and everything. And so I went to the guy that I knew, had groomed me, mentored me, showed me all the ropes, and I think he left some things out in case I ever needed him again. And and it turned out that I did. And I will tell you, David, the real truth was, he said he couldn't afford me, but realistically, I couldn't afford not to have him in my business right now. So absolutely. And what the guy has done as far as, his business coaching for us, and I just said, hey, listen, I understand you have your own deal, but I'm greedy and I want you here full time. So can you put one of my shirts on, and can I pay you full time to do that until we get to our point? And he's been gracious enough to do that for us. Yes, sir. I'm sorry? Oh, the E-Myth. I have not. No, sir. Okay. The E-Myth. Okay, I will tell you, I'm going to get with my CFO, make sure I got that $20. Yes, sir. So someone trained to run the equipment? Yeah. Yes, sir, we do. Yes, sir. So that is, and I will tell you, quite frankly, we are going to be. It's heartbreaking for me, I will tell you guys. So I am probably losing my number one guy in the country, and I say in the country, in my territory, but realistically in the country that's doing this right now. So when I brought my son on 3 years ago to do this with us, we had, our deal together was, okay, all right, man, this is going to be what we do. This is going to be your business when I leave. And that's still, pretty much the plan. But he has been offered a position to be a national equipment director for one of the major companies that we were talking about nationwide. And what that does is it takes away our lead guy. So basically, our son Hunter was doing all the training for all of our personnel and everything. In addition to, he was doing training for all of our national distributors. We just got back 2 weeks ago from California, I believe, where we went out and he was basically training all of their personnel as well. And so it's a big loss. It's going to be a big loss for everyone should he decide to accept this deal, which we feel like he is, because it's, money talks to young guys. and there's a lot of it. So we're going to be opening up another position to be our trainer, right? And we have a lot of things opened up with that right now. We're just trying to figure out what marketplace that's going to work out of, how many different guys we'll be bringing in to do that. And so it's a good opportunity, yes. So the answer, we still have other personnel that are trained, but probably none that were as versed as he was, just because he's been around it so long. But and then we currently we're seeking, some guys, some sales guys out in the Houston, Dallas, San Antonio market. We just hired a guy for San Antonio. Austin is doing really well. but we have some more openings in Houston and Dallas Fort Worth. So constant growth, lots of development, lots of work, but we like the product. You know, we're dedicated to the product, and simply as a small business, I think that there was a time a year and a half ago where we had branched out too far and trying to do too many things, and so it was something that we just said, hey, we got to dial this back in because I'm losing way too much money that I don't have, right? And trying to do too many things, and being the jack of all trades is always good, right? But you got to dial that in at some point. And I think it was a very good decision, right? There was probably some reduction in revenues that were coming through for us just because, we're not selling $40,000 worth of whatever and $50,000 worth of whatever a month. And those are things that you sit back and you say, oh, man, that's tough. That's, it's a big hit. But ultimately the big picture is just, being focused. And we started doing the equipment and we were doing it really well. And I think that's what, gained us the expansion that we had. So, yes, sir. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the question.
What are your annual sales and how many employees do you have?
Okay, so our annual sales started out. I think the first year we were about 300,000. And that was like in the first few months or whatever we had talked, and then we went to the next year. Basically, we went to about 1. Then we went 1.5, and I think now we're tracking closer to 3. So definitely, and we're doing 3 just taking over this market. We definitely anticipate that to be closer to the $8 to $10 million mark. But I would say in probably the next 3 years. So the market is so big down in Houston, and what that did to us is just incredibly. So some of the slow part of our growth is we talked about bleeding red and bleeding blue. Well, the blue competition in Dallas, Fort Worth, and Texas is the largest distributor in the country for our competition. And he has owned that market for years. I mean, many years. And they have done a phenomenal job with the territory. But when we took over Dallas, Fort Worth, and we took the national account away from him, it was eye-opening for those guys. And so we went from flying under the radar to being in his bullseye immediately and everything. And that's made it even tougher now because, if you've been doing this, that guy's been selling that equipment for 25 years in that marketplace, and he has his customer base pretty solid. At that point, you can only imagine what he's going to do to retain those customers after all they've spent with him through all the years. So we battle lots of that. But the Houston territory is totally different for us. That's a territory that's been regulated and owned realistically by our chief partner in that market. So we are very excited about what's going on down there and the time and efforts that we're spending in that market. How have we been able to compete with them? Well, I will tell you the one thing that I think that they have taken for granted in that market is customer service. It's the support behind the sales. When you sell a guy something and he comes back to you and comes back to you and comes back to you and you never go back and see him, he just keeps coming to you. At some point they realize that, right? I do. I want I don't feel like I'm the most important guy on the planet as a customer. I understand that everyone has many customers. But I do want to be cared for, right? And I want to know that my investment was smart and meaningful. And so I think that those are the things that we've heard the most about is just our follow-up service. Being able to, what David has helped us do also is being able to develop some service plans so that we know we have a reason. And not only that, you start covering the state of Texas and New Mexico. I mean, your customer base is pretty large yourself, right? And trying to remember, did I ever sell that guy something? I don't want to be in that position, And I actually had it happen to me one time. I couldn't believe it, and that was eye-opening for me. It really was, because I was quoting a guy this $35,000 spot welder, and he said, "Lupe, you sold me one last year." I said, "I know. Don't you need another one?" but that was just trying to save face because I had forgotten. I mean, I felt terrible and I felt horrible about it, and I said, that will not happen to me again, right? And so it's important. Yes, sir. So that's a very good question, right? I think that a couple of the things that I tell my guys all the time, and being in the Marines for 10 years, basically, is I tell them, can I get back to you? The answer was 5, sir. I'm down to 5, up to 5 employees back there, so I didn't finish telling you that. But the thing was, with the in the Marines, as far as culture, that's kind of some of the things that always stuck to me. The guys ask me all the time, why didn't you finish out your 20 years in the Marines? And I said, because those guys are tough. Yeah, I thought I was for a while, but 20 years worth, I'm good right here. Okay, it's time for me to move on down the road. But it's I tell my guys all the time. I said, know yourself and seek self-improvement, right? I said, when a customer is telling you some things and you've realized you've made a mistake or you've told them something wrong, man, you tell them, hey, you know what? I'm sorry. I told you something wrong. This is the correct response and things like that. And it goes back to integrity, right, for that. And those guys, they respect that. I tell them all the time, I said, listen, I'm the sales guy. You know what? I'll tell you who the expert is. The expert is you, man. You do this job every day, I'm not going to come in here and try to tell you how to repair this vehicle. And I will tell you what, those guys respect that. They do. They understand that we are all professionals in what we do, and we don't have to be a professional in everything. And so that's the thing that I see still to this day, that our competitors, when they go in, and what they're doing is they want to take over the whole demonstration and show them how easy they can use it. What I want to do is I want to take over the whole demonstration and let them do it and let them see how hard it is to do, and then let them tell me that, oh yeah, this is good, right? So I think it's a big difference. Sometimes we get pushback because I tell my guys, I said, hey, listen, when we go in and we're doing this demonstration for our customer, or we're showing them what we're going to do, we're not going to physically work on a vehicle. We're only going to work on props that we do. And I said, one, it's about liability, right? If you're out here and you're welding on this vehicle and you welded something wrong and it goes down the road, crashes, catches on fire, burns, and kills someone, we're going to answer to that at some point, right? Well, we're not interested in that. So basically what we want to do is we want to show them on our test materials that we have, and then we let them use it on their vehicles and everything. We do get pushback on that sometimes. The guy's like, well, why don't you want to do it on a vehicle? Well, why do you want me to do your work? I tell my guys all the time, don't be afraid to be the bad guy, all right? Because at the end of the day, they'll understand always that where you come from, what you're doing, and the pushback that, quite frankly, it's too easy for us to always be the good guy. That's the easy ticket. So we cannot be afraid to say no, can't do it. It's just like, when the guys come in and they want a big discount, things like that. Well, I understand the equipment's expensive, but this is what the manufacturer says the value of it is. And when I come into your place, to get my car fixed, and I say, well, can you save my deductible? Quite frankly, their answer should be, well, yes, I can, but what do you want me to leave off? Yeah. So that, and so that's kind of the path we take, right? So developing that culture for those guys, and then, I think it's also important that we don't forget what it takes for our guys to go out and sell product. And the one thing that I'm driving to Houston this afternoon when we leave here, and I'm driving with Houston so that I can drive with one of my employees and do some training and some coaching while we're going all the way down to Houston, developing some habits for him that I think he needs probably some improvement in. But instead of just telling them, hey, you need to work on this, 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 and this, I think it brings more, and it brings more to culture if we're riding and coaching them through that process and everything. And, do I have anything better to do? Absolutely, I do. But I think that this guy, has tons of potential, and if we spend the proper time with him, then they'll be all on board with you. So, but E-Myth book, I got that. We'll take a look at that. So, guys, I appreciate it. I mean, that's really what I've got. If there's any more questions or anything, I appreciate and respect what each and every one of you guys are doing. I will tell you, it's the one thing that I have learned in these 3+ years is cash is king. So, yeah, sir. I believe it too, absolutely. I totally agree. I will tell you that's it's been the tough part, and I've got some other partners in here. And Ken's been very good, and we've been blessed to have him in our organization. Ken, I appreciate what you have done for us, and all. But again, thank you all for your time. I appreciate it. It's good being here, and I'm sorry I couldn't find anyone else to get this done for us today. So, thanks.